Theo here with Amateur Sports TV. Joining me in this beautiful hardcourt office of Basketball Manitoba, Adam Wedlake, the guru of Basketball Manitoba. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I'm glad I'm making you laugh. We have a wonderful and busy August to discuss. First off, let's talk about the Canada-Nigeria game that was hosted here at Bell MTS Place.
Yeah, it was a wonderful event for us. First time in 20 years we had a team of that stature, the Canadian senior men's national team here. Literally to almost to the day since the 1999 Pan Am game. So to have them here as their warm-up to the World Cup where they are right now in China was a great opportunity. We had just over 8,000 people in the place, and Team Nigeria themselves have 3 or 4 NBA players, which added to the profile, and overall it was a super night.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to see. I mean, like you said, 20 years to the day, and to see that type of talent on a hard court in Winnipeg. It's got to be great to see those role models for younger kids and to see where the potential for them to play in numerous years later.
Well, that's what it is. It's like a spark moment that can give that kid who was in the crowd or parent or whoever that was just there to experience. We don't see many events at the MTS Center, Bell MTS Place, outside of the Globetrotters, which is basketball, but it's not really basketball. So those things are unique, and we're hoping that this is a stepping stone to have them here more often, that we don't have to wait another 20 years to see that here. And not only just the senior teams, but there's junior teams and other level national teams. The women's system internationally is changing more to what the men have done the last couple of years, and how they're qualifying. So there will be more opportunities even on the female side to host some of these levels of games, whether it's a Bell MTS kind of event or a large university gym kind of place. To ever see a Canadian team come through here is always special.
Yeah, so we had the national team here in August. We've got both the Westmen and the Bisons, the Bobcats, and all the other university teams starting up soon. Before they even get to that, we had a week in August where we sent some basketball players to Swift Current for Western Canada Summer Games and our provincial teams. Let's touch on those guys real quick.
That's right. Yeah, that was our 60 new provincial teams were there for the week. And again, it was anytime we have an event like that, a multi-sport game, which games that only come every 4 years, are always unique and special. There's the ones that are really need to host these are the small towns because they take over the town.
Yeah.
To have an event like that, say in Winnipeg here or even in Brandon, sometimes gets lost, but in a smaller town like in Swift Current, the kids love it. And it's what's really neat about it is that the fact that there's 2 different phases, 2 different weeks, but there's probably 8 different sports happening at the same time. So our basketball kids getting behind the volleyball programs or the baseball or vice versa, and really end up supporting each other. It sort of builds that sort of Team Toba vibe.
That camaraderie.
Really cool.
I mean, if you're not playing in this sport, you definitely go enjoy it because, I mean, not that Swift Current's got lots going on, but what's going on is the Summer Games.
It takes over.
And it takes over the entire town, and it's great to support your fellow teams and enjoy all sports that are being participated in. Yeah. So how did the 16U fare?
Well, both our teams finished third, or bronze. They lost to Alberta won both golds. We were expecting that, but they lost 2 close games to Saskatchewan, which was really the team that they had to beat. Right. And they both were single-digit losses in the early games, and that's basically set them to the third place finish on that. But what's good for us is that this helps us build our base for the next games, which is in 2021, which is the Canada Games. That'll be in Niagara Falls, Ontario. Right. And so this allows us to broaden our tent a bit wider for an athlete that would still be eligible to play in that, and even more importantly at times our coaching base. It gets that many more coaches involved with Team Manitoba that would not normally be involved, and that's important to look into the future.
Absolutely. Do you see more players or more participants now in the 3-on-3 style of game, or still more to the conservative 5-on-5? Bit of A, bit of B.
That's changing, and I think that's a generational shift that we'll see. What's happening next summer, for some that may know or may not know, is with the 3-on-3 world seeing us getting into the Olympic level, will open up the doors greatly to that level and style of play. We actually use the 3-on-3 style of play a lot at the young ages, very young, because it's a great modified version of the game, smaller floor, fewer players, a little less clutter on the floor with ball movement and things like that. So a lot of our young players are really seeing that as their first experience in the game, but then to see an outlet at the very top level of the game, like we're seeing internationally, is super.
It's more of a skill versus, strategy and pick and roll. There's a little bit of pick and roll, but it's more one-on-one skill on the 3-on-3.
Yeah, there's
game.
definitely a certain style or certain kind of player that will thrive in a 5-on-5 setting, and also will thrive in a 3-on-3 setting.
Yeah.
And so that's quite different to see that. And
Yeah.
it's quite neat.
Have you noticed the game change away from like the standard center position and going more to like the four and then the 5? And
Yeah, and that's where you see that really at the international style of play, and even the NBA now has gone away from the back to the basket, one big guy. Like I'm looking at his jersey here right now, hanging on our wall there.
Yep.
Todd McCullough, 7'1" player, pretty limited skill-wise, but he was a big guy and had great hands, great inside player. Would a player like him, or would Todd, who say if he came out of the system today, crack the NBA? I don't know. It'd be a tough one to say.
Mm-hmm.
But then you see at the professional style play where you get a guy who's say 7'1", like a Kevin Durant. He's not a back to the basket. A few little.
he has a different skill set.
He completely changed the game, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of players that have changed the game, both at professionally and at the international level, and that trickles down here because ultimately that's the style of play that gets picked up by coaches and by just how the game is to be played and taught.
What are some of the other resources the office brings to the Canada Game Sport for Life Center here?
Well, we try to make it a one-stop shop. Now that we've now been here for a number of years in this office space for almost over 10 years now, but just recently with the Canada Game Center in the last 2 years coming on, it's more athlete-focused, athlete-driven kind of things. Where vast majority of what we run here as an organization is run right in the center here, right in the gymnasium here.
Absolutely.
But as for a lot of stuff in the office here is with respect to coach resources, officials resources, supporting our volunteers out there. So what they do is more efficient and more effective, and just our sport is growing overall with just sheer numbers. So that just means more everything, more players, more coaches, more officials, more gyms needed, more sometimes little fires to put out, which comes with growth, and that's okay.
Little fires are okay as long as you don't have to put too many fingers in holes and dams to block off the water. Very much enjoy talking with you, Adam. I mean, basketball is always a dear sport of mine because my little guy plays it.
Awesome.
And the one-stop shop here on the 3rd floor. I have to ask you about 32. Why number 32?
That's
Is that your number?
That was my old number
That was the
from
old
high
number?
school days.
So
yeah.
what was high school? Was it?
That
Is
was
it retired? Is it retired now? The retired number? I see it from the rafters.
And maybe in the garbage can, I think.
Oh,
maybe, but no,
okay.
not in the rafters. Colonies Collegiate it was.
There we go.
But yeah.
Adam Wedlake with Basketball Manitoba. Thanks for joining us here on the
Yeah,
Amateur
we bet.
Sportscast.